Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webcast, Upgrading to Electronic Access Control. This is another episode in our continuing webcast series. I'm very excited to do this one today. We have a great panel, but before I get to that, I did want to go over a few things. Um, First, I want to thank our sponsors, NAPCO and Salto. Thank you very much. We couldn't do this without you. Let me go over uh, like I said, this is a really experienced panel with everyone's got a ton of industry experience. I'm going to start with Wayne. Winton is the owner of Tri County Locksmith Service, and Wayne is been the owner of that thriving business and successfully operated that for over a decade. Next, we have Daniel Hardwick. He's vice president 8KL Solutions. Daniel is a second generation locksmith, starting when he was just 8 years old at his parents' company, Austin's Key and Lock. He had to stand on an MSC catalog to reach the key machine and started helping in the shop by cutting keys, fitting the locks, and helping customers in the showroom. In 2018, he took over as part owner and bought out his dad's shares right before he passed in 2019. About that time, the company moved to a newer, larger building, and Daniel has been building the business ever since, adding employees, expanding into card access, surveillance, auto openers, fire services, fire door services. Let's move on to Roland Smith. He is the industry solutions leader, hospitality for Salto. Last but not least, uh, Peter Lowenstein. He is the vice president sales for NAPCO Access, and Peter joined NAPCO 4 years ago, bringing extensive experience, uh, nearly 25 years from different areas, from distribution, competitive manufacturers. Under his leadership, the NAPCO team will continue to expand key relationships, develop strategic partnerships, and grow the business. He oversees sales teams for Alarm Lock, NAPCO Access Pro, and Marks USA. I'm going to jump into the first question. Let me advance that slide. And then I'm also going to first jump to this slide just to show that how much electronic access control is a part of the locksmith world. I know we have been returning to this topic a lot, but it's for good reason. I mean, more than 80%, it's either a major driver in their product portfolio or will complement their existing. So it is not something that is just they're dipping their toes in anymore. This is something we really need to. That's why we continue to dive deeper into this topic. So the first question, let's jump into that one. Um, this one, I just want to kind of talk a little bit about the growth, where it's happening. We'll try to get into as much kind of personal stories. Wayne, I know you've got extensive experience, doing installs. You write about them for our publication, which we appreciate. And, for your company, you do a ton of work there in Colorado. I'll start with you on this one. What are you seeing out there in the field, with electronic access control?
This is the golden age, if not the platinum age, right now, where we're headed. The way that AI is really kind of integrating into electronic access, and now it's just kind of a melting pot and all blending together. I mean, with the camera systems and the way that it integrates with the electronic access control systems and the facial recognition, biometrics, everything is happening everywhere all at once right now. In the construction industry, there is the new installations. I've got contractors that call me and they need me to install the mechanical portions. Like, they need me to install the strikes. They know how to run the wire. Most of the new buildings, running wire and low voltage wire to openings is pretty much standard practice now, just like you would run electricity or plumbing in a home or a building or a commercial building. So we've got that, and we still get a piece of that business because the contractors don't know how to set these systems up. They don't know how to align everything properly. They don't know a lot of those aspects of it. So the locksmith really has a huge opportunity there if that's what you're into. There's also just the retrofit projects. Schools are upgrading. Maybe they're not going to build a whole new building, and they can't bring wire to everything. So you've got standalone opportunities there. Every store, it wants to go electronic access. The people want to be able to control that business from their phone, or they want to monitor it from their phone or some kind of cloud-based system. So we're doing those retrofits. There's retrofits, there's new builds, and then there's the residential market. Even there, everything is picking up as well too. So people want control. They want to know what's going on. They want to understand what's happening. They want to know everything and get notifications on their phone. And they just really want to they want to be in touch and be in tune with their home and their business. And these platforms allow that.
I would say we see a lot of retrofit in our area. We just don't see a whole lot of new construction, but we go mostly for retrofits, and a lot of our client base is retrofits. And we see a lot of growth. We're seeing a lot of push in the healthcare industry, in the assisted living industries, anything healthcare wise. They are really pushing card access, any kind of smart technology that's really just letting them see who's in, who's out, creating schedules and events and stuff like that. The Bluetooth credentials, we are seeing a huge push for that right now. NFC credentials, stuff like that. That's coming up a lot in our area. And, but yeah, that's where we see a lot of our growth is in the healthcare industry.
Definitely sort of further to those points. So I'm going to throw more numbers at you because that's what everyone loves. So as a statistic is 84.2% of locksmiths say that absolutely so. Additionally, a recent study that I purchased showed that the trend right now is 64% of the access control industry as a general statement is going to wireless technology. So 64% of the business out there is going that direction. Interestingly, if you take that wireless category and you break it down to offline and online locks, offline being the locks that are programmed at the locks versus online locks, which are connected via, whichever Wi-Fi manner, megahertz and so forth, still the vast majority of those locks are offline. So right now, the opportunity for everyone to elevate themselves to a fully online system via any of the ways that these other gentlemen had mentioned is absolutely the state of the future. The good news is at the end of the day, all of these electronic locks still are the positive latching device. They hold the door shut or allowed to open and so forth. But ultimately, this is absolutely the trend. And this is what we've seen now on the manufacturing side is it's about a 70-30 retrofit to new construction. Because all the school bonds and all the rest of these markets that we talked about, people are saying, great, let's get off the key standard and let's go to electronics for all the reasons that were mentioned, who, what, where, when, why, all the audit trail and so forth. So electronics are absolutely the wave, and we're seeing more and more customers starting from your simple one-person lock shops all the way through systems integration, heavily addressing this market in that space.
Couldn't agree with each of you more. What we're seeing by being a manufacturer as well is that all markets and each one of the verticals continue to grow. I'll say this, when it comes to residential, I think it outperforms unit to unit more than the rest of them, but it's a huge retrofit market now. As construction starts to slow, the retrofit market continues to grow. And as was mentioned, schools need safety. So the securing the perimeter at minimum. And then, of course, there are a lot of mandates in different cities as well to be able to create an alert through the lock or a lockdown from inside of the room, inside of any of the classrooms. So it's a lot that's changing with the retrofit front where it's going to continue to grow. Now, one of the areas that I really like as well is with hospitality. It's a year-over-year trend to continue growing as well. So we're seeing that by the end of 2026, we'll have 200,000 new guest rooms in the U.S. alone. So every space and every place will continue to have more electronic locks. If you have a smart home, you're going to have a smart building everywhere you go. Everybody's accustomed to having technology in the palm of their hands now.
Yeah, those are great points, each of you. Wayne, a quick follow-up question. I know you mentioned this when we had our State of the Industry webcast, and I think this is a worthy point. There is a lot more money to be made once electronic access control enters the kind of arena. Isn't that true in terms of what you can charge and what the kind of money you can make on a project? Is that accurate?
Absolutely, it's accurate. Our normal locksmith rate is about $145 an hour. Our electronic access control rate is about $185 an hour. So we're already adding about $40 per hour just for that extra expertise and that extra knowledge. So it's absolutely true. You can charge more for it. There's less people doing it. If you know what you're doing, you can definitely make way more money understanding these electronic access control systems And when you have great companies like two representatives that we have here, they give you the technical support. All you got to do is have a technical support line and they'll walk you right through everything. I'm still getting called out to change batteries. I mean, it's still, I'm charging more to change batteries than I would to rekey a lock, and it takes less time. So there's tons of opportunity here, and the technical support is really amazing.
Cool. Thanks for, and Daniel, did you want to add anything before I go to question 2? I just thought that was an interesting follow-up.
Yeah. So going off his comment there, yeah, we add a lot of value in our level of expertise just because we know the hardware, we know the codes and compliances that all the businesses need to be in. We know that already just from being a locksmith, so we're really adding value to these customers, and we can just make that money more by actually adding the access control in there as well. And we, the customer doesn't have to cut 2-3 checks; they can cut one. So,
yeah, great point. All right, let's move on to the next question. Then this kind of, we touched on this as well in the State of the Industry webcast, but I think it's worthy of diving a little deeper into, creating its own question. So looking at how locksmiths could start adding, either more options to their portfolio, or if they're just starting out. And then what we talked about last time is a lot of this has to do with these relationships with manufacturers, with distributors, with representatives. So let's start out with Roland on this one.
Sure. So one of the items that I'm always thinking about is how does someone grow their portfolio or the business when it comes to locksmithing? And today with electronic locks, it's all about education. We have, when you think about the different platforms, you have cloud-based platforms, server-based platforms. You have credential technologies, which range anywhere from having an RFID credential to a mobile app, or even a wallet now, whether it's a wallet key for Apple, Google, etc. So staying close, as you mentioned, to the manufacturers and understanding what they are promoting, what their sales approach is, and as far as their product offering, and then just understanding that it's no longer Division 8. All the divisions have blended when it comes to access control now. So it was before a mechanical lock. Now the mechanical lock is an electronic lock, still supporting that same function, but adding a lot of additional features such as remote open from any part of the planet. So to do that, it's going to take cloud connectivity or Wi-Fi connectivity. So to stay abreast of the different technologies, I would say.
Definitely. And to build off of that, I mean, that's spot on. And, the good news is that there's lots of layers. If you imagine access control like a staircase, and at the bottom of the staircase is your simple brass key, and at the very top are enterprise level access control systems with all sorts of functions and doodads and so forth. But the best thing you could do is what Roland had mentioned first: get the education. The good news is ourselves, and I'm sure as all major manufacturers, have an unbelievable amount of free education available online. There are YouTube videos, there are resources beyond resources, even going to the websites and so forth, to start understanding even what's out there. Because as any adoption of a new technology, it's a little bit like drinking from a fire hose. You start with this thing, you don't even know where you're going with this thing. You don't even know what you don't even know. But once you start understanding that, you'll understand the scope, the breadth, and the depth of what is available out there, from a simple at the point, at the door electronic lock, all the way through, again, multi-combined locks, multiple locations, also hybrid systems where you'll have both wired traditional electromechanical access control combined with wireless. And then let's throw in NFC credentials in a wallet and Bluetooth and all the rest. So yeah, there's, as anything, it's a little bit like Alice in Wonderland. How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? The good news is you don't have to go very far down to get really, really nice access control. And that's the beauty of it. Most manufacturers certainly represent the simple to the sublime. So yeah, the educational side of it is a smart idea. Definitely get tight with the manufacturers' websites and their trainers and so forth, but definitely educate yourself first. And I think that will probably answer most of your questions of the what's next.
Yeah, definitely building off that point. The training that is out there today is phenomenal compared to, when I started, heck, 12 years ago. Just looking for training and stuff like that, you didn't have a whole lot of options, whether it may have been with an association or anything like that. But nowadays it's everywhere. So, yeah, like you said, start out with training, start out with training and then, start down that rabbit hole of finding a company that you would like to specialize with and really, dive deep, find somebody that, has maybe great tech support, great, great options for like adding future proofing stuff like that, and integrations and anything like that, where they're actually building their company and you can build your company right off top of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've gotten several very, very, very large projects. And the way that we got those projects was knowing your local distributors. Every one of these major companies has a local representative. You need to be familiar with that person. Usually they'll take you out to lunch so you can get a free meal for it. You can go out, you can tell them what you specialize in, you can ask them questions. Just have somebody's phone number in your phone that you can call for technical support that's working directly with that company, and somebody that's local. I've even had people come out and say, hey, let's go walk a job together and let's see what we can do with this. And that way the manufacturers are actually going to, I can send them floor plans. I can send them floor plans for anything as simple as a 2-door access control system to a 158 door multiplex living system. And they will come up, they'll do all the legwork and they'll come up with the system exactly what they need, because they obviously want to sell that product to that client. And so they'll do all the legwork, and then I just turn in a bid and there it is. It's ready to go. I've got somebody I can pick up on the phone. We also have online groups, Locksmith Nation. There's a lot of Facebook groups. There's a lot of forums where you can actually talk to other installers and you can get a lot of information that way. This is the information era. And the more information you have, the more you're going to be able to service your customer and the more well-versed you're going to sound when you're speaking to them, when you're selling it, because we always have to sell the product. We have to sell the job before we start installing it. So knowing the features, making sure that they fit what the customer wants, and knowing how to install it are your big 3 things that you have to be successful.
Yeah, no, those are great points, Wayne. And Daniel, I wanted to get follow up with you on what Wayne is talking about, kind of finding those jobs and growing out that electronic access control side of things. What has been most successful for you? You don't have to give away your secret sauce, but
No, it is really about just building those relationships. When we have a lot of locksmith customers, and then it was just educating those customers on what all we do. When we first started getting into the access control world, other than just doing like offline locks or a standard keypad on a door, stuff like that. We just really had to go down and talk to each one of the customers and say, hey, we can offer this now. We started out offering, discounted rates, just to, kind of help their budget, kind of let us learn a little bit. And, it's worked out well for us. And we've got over 300 customers on cloud access control right now. And they all pay us very well. And they are repeat customers. They're all the time adding a door. So it's worked out well.
that's a great segue into our next question. Let me move forward. I'm going to stay with you, Daniel, on this one. It's a good segue. Opportunities for recurring revenue, especially as you're adding these clients and they need to add things all the time. What does this look like? What has this journey been for you? And have you been able to develop some recurring revenue with this?
Yeah. Like I mentioned, we've got over 300 customers on cloud access control. They all pay us a monthly fee. They pay us a monthly fee for their cloud access license, their software license. But on top of that, we also add a preventative maintenance where we come out every year and we just check everything out. We touch the door, we touch the handle, we touch the strike, the access control panel, the readers, software. We do any adjustments that they want to make to schedules or anything like that. But yeah, we started out adding access control as a lower cost to our customers because we were new to the field, so we wanted to also get our foot in the door with our customers. But we knew we were going to make it up on the back end too with recurring charges. And we also offered a little added value with the preventative maintenance. And I think our customers really appreciate that. And they're glad to pay it. They're really glad to pay us to come out every year and, put our hands on the system, make sure everything works. Because too often we've gone out to retrofit card access systems or camera systems or anything like that, where an installers came out, installed them a system, and then it just hasn't worked in years because no one's offered any kind of tech support or any kind of preventative maintenance or anything like that on it. And so we've added that value with the recurring license fees and stuff like that. And nobody has complained. And it also adds a little bit more on the operational expenditure side for businesses rather than this big giant capital investment that they got to make. So it's helped out with there too. And that's all we use is cloud-based stuff, cloud-based access control.
No, that's great. That's great. I would just like to remind people to always think of the monthly subscription fees as a product as well. If you mark up the hardware, you should be marking up your subscription fees as well. That's part of it. And that's how you really cement yourself in this industry. And where, here's what I hear all the time is that, well, people see the prices online. People can see the prices of certain products online. So we as the locksmith and as the installer need to come up with ways to where we can regain that revenue back because we're losing it. It's hard to mark up 100% if you see a certain product online and you send out a bid. And how many people have done this? You send out a bid, you put part numbers on there. Next thing you know, they ask you, well, how much is it for the labor? And then they want you to commit back to that original bid of the labor where you already had profit figured into it. You can't do that. I don't let my customers get away with doing that. So you got to find little ways to be able to inject that profit back in there. And those monthly subscription fees is one way to do it. The other way to do it is always look at the door as a whole opening. I've got several hotels where I'm a fire door inspector. So that means that we can inspect that door. We can make sure that we're applying these expensive systems to a healthy opening. And that is one of the most important pieces that I hope people take home. If you put a $10,000 electronic access control system on a door that is not healthy and a frame that is not healthy, it's never going to work right, and they're not going to be happy with it. So you need to adjust and address the entire opening, the door, the hinges, the frame, how it's secured, the door closer, the door sweeps, the door seals. Every aspect of it is an opportunity to make money. And that's where you can really bring those profits back by, we need to replace the hinges. We need to put a continuous hinge on. We need to replace the door closer that's blown out and slamming. That's going to destroy an electronic striker and a standalone electronic lock in a heartbeat. That's where you really need to focus. And that's where I'm finding we're getting that money and that profit back that we're losing for people being able to see pricing online.
Well, I think Daniel and Wayne, you all hit all the marks and checked all the boxes right there. So I'm in a somewhat of a unique blend when it's come from being a manufacturer because I led the only vertical that used to sell direct and support and install direct for Salto. So with hospitality, we used to go direct. We've changed, and we now go to our channel partners for hospitality as well. But while understanding that all the projects that we've sold, installed, we at one point every site would say, well, where's the warranty? I need to pay some warranty fees. I need to have that additional support. So that's one of the driving mechanisms that I always look toward and say, if you sell the lock, you also support the lock. You sold the installation, support the installation. Any site that I've ever worked with would much rather to understand that they have support on the back end, because I always tell them you have day one and day two. Day one is when it's pretty, it's shiny, it's on the door. Day two is, what do I do next when it doesn't work? Who do I call? Outside of who do I call? As you stated, I've watched people throw the deadbolt, and that's how they stop the door from closing when it's the staff members in hotels, right? Instead of opening the door, closing the door properly. So I'm walking down corridors all the time, and I can see what locks are going to break first, right? what doors are going to have frame issues, what closes aren't going to work. So having that support is number one. And then now, as was mentioned as well, cloud-based instead of just server-based. The cloud-based has the recurring revenue that was not available earlier on for server-based properties. Now the cloud-based, they have immediate updates. They have immediate software patches. They don't have to do anything, but they're happy with that because they know that small fee that they pay, it is going to add up when it comes to security and maintenance. And that works for whoever's the supporting the installation.
Bunch of really great selling points. I think we're all witness this. I mean, the push towards this RMR model is really the next frontier. I mean, everyone has been referring to this, as the gig economy. What's your side hustle? What do you do? Well, the great thing about this is mailbox money. Once you establish my favorite part of the equation in RMR is the first one, recurring. This means forever. That's good news for everyone. Quite frankly, we've all grown absolutely accustomed to the micro subscription mentality. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's an extra $1 here, it's $2 there, it's $4 there. You don't look at the total picture. Sure, at the end of the day, you might be spending just about as much, but it feels a little better because it's a little tiny drop versus a big flood of water. And that's okay, by the way. That's fine. How many of us have an Apple account or a Netflix or all these micro subscriptions? Couple bucks here, couple bucks there. No problem, because you know exactly what you're getting. The service levels at your fingertips or on your phone or at your device, so you can easily add visibility what the outcome is of this. A lot of times you can subscribe to things right in an app and so forth. So people don't mind that. Versus, let's look back to the days of not even yesteryear, but even yesterday. You've got some of these major corporations, and you get to some of these large commercial buildings where they've got, hundreds and hundreds of openings, and they're spending $200,000 a year on maintenance fees with the software company. And it's extremely restrictive. Well, now you can say, all right, well, how about $3 a door or $1 a camera? Oh, that's really easy. All of a sudden, you've got your 8 to 10 door jobs. They can budget for that every month. Very simple. At the same time, to your points, we grab a guy like Wayne and say, all right, you put this thing online, that $3 a door, now you can charge him $6. No problem at all. So now you've got all that micro subscription money you're coming in and the rest of it. So it's shifted that. People have that service expectation. They're comfortable with it. They don't mind a little bit here and there. So really the potential for this is probably, in my opinion, one of the greatest potentials for new and renewable income going forward. This is it, because hardware is hardware. A lock on a door is going to, hopefully, from a respectful manufacturer, you're going to get 5 years out of this thing or so forth, which means you're going to replace that lock every now and again. Oh boy, those monthly checks keep coming in, no problem at all. So ultimately, this recurring monthly revenue, I think, is the next generation for all of you to make an incredibly large, huge impact to what your income is going to look like. And going forward, frankly, sort of part B of that, if you want to look at one of the models that we've seen in past, I mean, how many of us in past have put on ADT security at our home and they're like, oh gosh, you're excited. Like, this is great. They're going to come, they're going to give me all this equipment for free and I'm just going to pay a monthly fee. That's amazing. I got all this equipment for free. Well, little did you know that what they did is they added $20 a month or $40 a month to that service, which, by the way, that free equipment is paid for in about 6 months and you have a 4-year contract. So truly, ultimately, again, I'm not saying that in a negative spin. I'm saying use that to your advantage. People are okay with micro subscriptions and monthly fees. Now is the time to leap on that.
Yeah, those are really great points, everybody. And it kind of reminds me, I come from the integrator world in a past life. So I was covering, I saw that recurring revenue kind of trend kind of happen to the integrator side of things, where they were resisting it for a while and then they realized it was a gold mine. It was potentially could save their business during tough times. If you have 30%, 40% of your business is recurring, you can get through some rough times, like COVID, for example, or anything. So yeah, that's it. Like you said, Peter, it is kind of the future, is being able to supplement your big projects with some customers that are going to be paying you over and over again and adding things over time.
So with all of this, you got this happening and you have these new companies that are proposing all of these various forms of RMR and so forth. One of the barriers that we found within our company is that you have people, not a Wayne level locksmith, but a lot of your more typical, I want to put a piece of metal on a door and walk away guys. They don't want to mess with it. Well, here's the good news. There's now some savvy folks who have created whole companies of doing nothing but managing third-party RMR for people. So now what they're doing is they're creating the RMR. They are taking a cut of that, and the original taker of that business, like a Wayne, would still get their cut, but they're getting, 20% of the whatever it is every month. People are creating entirely new business units just for that. So again, it's like a third layer on this way you can still do it. It's all above board, but
Yeah.
another possibility.
Yeah. You're right. It's really taking on a life of its own right there. That's interesting. Good point. All right. Let's move on to the next question here. I know, you know, Wayne, you do a lot with Aloha and, you know, and just in terms of videos you do, in terms of training, what's out there available to locksmiths who want to learn more on the training side of things? I know we touched on this already a little bit, but and we'll go and through and see what else we could add so people know where to go.
Sure. And this is it. Being a former technical trainer myself, I am an addict to sales via training. I think that's the best way to do this. The more somebody knows about a product, the more they're going to want to use that product. As always, it's all about mind share. It's the same thing in distribution. It's the same thing at end user level. You have to capture the mind share. You have to show them the entirety of what's available under one manufacturer, and that's the goal. If you have a full solutions group, like many of us do in the manufacturing side, you can literally get someone from the edge of the curb all the way to the server room, including software. But if they don't know that, they're not going to buy your product. They're going to buy it from someone. That's our whole discussion is, why aren't they buying it from us? So the whole point of this is that make sure that training, you drive that training. This happens at a street level, all the way from the end user through locksmiths up to manufacturing. Just make sure that you're exposing them to everything we had mentioned. I know that all manufacturers have product trainers. They get out and do local shows in person. Of course, with the technology now, there's weekly Zooms and all the rest of it. So the availability of that training is probably greater than it ever has been. It just depends on what direction you want to go. Selfishly, of course, we want to try and drive them to our company. So we have our trainers doing a variety of things, also attending Aloha, ISC West, GSX, all the rest of this. A lot of times they'll sponsor those even at local distribution. So really, your best bet is to partner with one of your local distributors, see what they're doing for, not just your typical counter days, but for actual events, people bring in a food truck, make it exciting and so forth. But truly the training opportunity now is greater and easier, I think, than it ever has been in what we've seen in the past.
I totally agree. Once again, with the ability of web conferences, it slowed the thought that you had to come to one of our offices. So we initially would have all of our partners come to the office, begin the certification process, because of course we want to ensure that the product they install is going to be a working product and the name continues to stand out for quality. But we then begin to extend far more web certifications, and we provide equipment. So that way, even if you're inside of your lab with a few people, you don't have to bring everybody to one of our satellite offices. You can have it in office and have the training available. Then we also have monthly webinars. And then, of course, one of the great things, too, that we offer is, for example, I'm an industry expert. We have a few other vertical industry experts. So then we have our regional sales managers who are really connected with all of our channel partners. They stay in touch. And if they have any questions, if there's something they cannot answer for any of the verticals, then that's when they loop us in as well. And then we also always offer ourselves inside of any customer-facing meetings. And that's something that's a great benefit. So it's impossible for everyone to know everything, right? Especially if you're covering multiple verticals. So I might fly out for a hospitality opportunity with a customer, or even just provide a webinar. Someone in our education vertical may do the same. So with all of us replicating that same principle for training and education, whether it's customer facing directly with you, or you by yourself, or even our tech support department, you schedule time with them or just give them a call. We have many different layers to make sure that A, you are able to be trained, B, that you have support when in the field, and C, which is probably, I would say, the second most important, when you're actually negotiating and having those conversations, you then have someone who understands the use cases. Because I think that's one of the most critical when you're talking to a customer, especially if it's a customer that scales, then if you understand what their customer or their end user experience is, then you have a lot better opportunity, as with any environment, to sell the product, because it's not a sell. You're consulting with them, trying to see what solution fits best. So that's where we are always providing that education.
That's great. That's great. I agree with what everybody says so far. One aspect that I would really like to shine some light on is I am a huge fan, and I offer a lot of on-demand training where I take that camera and I let you just see right over my shoulder, and you can see these things on demand and the manufacturer training. That's all great. don't forget about hands-on training. My rules are that web-based training is an excellent idea that's going to prepare you to absorb more of the hands-on training. So when you see these ISC West, when you see a LOA trade show, when you see local trade shows offering hands-on classes, let me tell you that if you take a webinar and they show you how to run wire through a hollow metal frame, what happens if you go out to the field and you tap on that frame and all of a sudden you got nothing but concrete in there? What happens when you're trying to run wire or cut a strike in and you run into a solid beam of steel, or you have to go through multiple different kinds of materials such as brick, mortar, concrete? How do you know that you're going to be checking for utilities? You're drilling along and all of a sudden you might get a little shock because you ran into some wires. You need to be prepared for that. And you also need to be prepared for the other utilities like plumbing or water or just all of that different aspects. Make sure you get an equal amount of on-demand training from either a manufacturer or somebody like myself or whoever's providing that, and get your hands-on training and get your hands dirty too, because it's two completely different things.
Yeah, I agree. Hands-on training. I've always been a huge proponent of hands-on training. It's kind of gone by the wayside after COVID. One thing COVID taught us was that we can definitely learn, via Zoom and via Teams and stuff like that. But hands-on training is the best by far way to go. Associations, manufacturer training. Manufacturers have really stepped up to the game and offered local classes in our area. They've been stepping up and they've been offering local classes and hands-on training and actually bringing in auto openers and card access systems. And we're actually wiring these things up. We're actually programming. We're actually seeing how they work with strikes and locks and on the door, prepping doors and stuff like that. It's the hands-on training is definitely by far, I think, in my opinion, the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. And from that's you're kind of echoing what I've been hearing as well. It's a combination of both, and you really can't kind of earn a certification unless you really get your hands dirty at some point during that training. I think we have time for our last question before I get to the participants questions. I do want to get everyone's kind of outlook for the industry, particularly locksmithing, of course. What do you see for 2025? Any concerns? I know we don't have to get political with the new administration, but let's kind of tackle this question before we get Wayne. I'll stay with you.
Yeah, prices are going to go up. It really doesn't matter what's happening politically, just the features being offered and the new products being offered. People want more features. Just think about a car. What did a car cost 20 years ago versus what a car costs now? Because people want the Bluetooth, they want the screen, they want I want to poke a button and my car's nice and warm and my seat warmer's already warm and my steering wheel's already nice and warm when I get in there. And they're willing to pay the extra price for that. So the prices are only going up. And if the prices are going up, the profit's going to go up on that as well. One thing I would really like to draw attention to and stick a pin in here is to not forget the mechanical aspect of the electronic access field. Let's take a look at Houston, or let's take a look at some of these cities. What happens when the power goes out, when there's a natural disaster for more than a day or two, and those battery backups start to fail? If you don't have battery backup or generator backup, you are resorting back to your mechanical keyed access. And I think people really forget about that. And we really need to make sure that we pay attention to that too. What is the point of selling a $10, $20, $30, $40, $100,000 electronic access control system and putting it on a Schlage SC1 keyway? We need to make sure that those locks are actually the high security locks, the restricted keyways, and that those mechanical aspects stay in place and that we do not rely 100% on the electronic portion of the installation, because there will be a time when power goes out. Who knows what about cyber attacks and all these other things? I mean, these things are things we have to really consider seriously. If the internet goes out, what do you do? What's your plan? If the power goes out, what do you do? What's your plan?
I agree. The whole thing, if we can us as locksmiths, we can offer that added value, and working with the customer on their keys, and also we know the hardware. So putting the right kind of hardware along with an access control solution. So making sure that you have, for instance, a storeroom lock that's going to lock back every time rather than like a classroom or an entry function or anything like that. And then also, for instance, like having a particular door, we don't have to necessarily do keys on a key bypass on every single door. We can pick and choose doors that we want to do key bypass on. We can even dummy out doors if we want to, and that helps save the customer money and stuff like that. And they can see that and, we'll add value there. But yeah, for instance, if the power goes out, having some kind of backup, and knowing what to do, where to go, and how to do it. But as far as growth for 2025, I only see it going up from here with integrations and stuff like that. A lot of these other companies are integrating with other softwares or integrating with like surveillance camera systems, and integrating with any other software that's going to make the customer's lives easier and more convenient. And really, that's what we're paying for here is convenience anyway. We're not really trying to push security. We're actually pushing convenience. Now we're trying to balance security with the convenience. But as far as growth, I see integrations and I see, more and more luxuries and creature comforts as Wayne, I think, was trying to get to.
Great points. It's, it's so interesting coming at this from the manufacturer's angle and hearing from people who are right there at the street level where the rubber hits the road, validating a lot of the questions that we had and creating new ones. Germaine, to what does the industry outlook look like? I think that's exactly it. I think it's important as a manufacturer to make sure that we're creating products that make sense for our customers. What do they really want? Voice of the customer and so forth. And that's what we're going to do because as we've all seen, and I've said it for years, when times are good, people want security. When times are bad, people really want security. So, it's one of those scenarios where, it's kind of a positive, negative, positive thing, I guess is the way to put that. But the outlook is good. Things are growing, seeing the attendance at national shows, seeing the level of interest we've had in new areas where we have not been before. Security is something that people are not going to invest in. They're going to keep going with this. Honestly, I don't know that I have a lot of concerns about it other than what was mentioned. There's some practical concerns, prices and supply chain and all the rest of this. But overall, this is an area where people will and do spend the money and will continue to spend the money. The key is making sure that, as you guys have described, you're doing the right thing. You're their trusted advisor. You're putting the proper lock on for their particular situation. If they're in an area that's prone to power outages, maybe put an electronic lock that has its own battery backup built into it and it works, by itself at the door. The standalone locks that got everything built in and 40,000 different transactions in the background, blah, blah, blah. But in any instance, as always, the biggest concern is getting the ultimate end user the proper product they want in the proper category for their particular situation. And that's, I think, what I'm hearing here, and I'm sure everyone on the call, it's the same thing. It's all about being the trusted advisor. So just keep that steady, but just know that it's just kind of keep getting bigger.
Absolutely. Growth is going to continue. But like you said, I was thinking to myself, security and technology. In times of bad, we want more security, and in times of good, we want more technology so we can have fun and ease of access. But with that, as it was stated, security, right? So you double down at one time or another. Here's what I'm also seeing. The growth is also contributed to by other systems with the integrations. So for example, when it comes to energy savings inside of hotels, we integrate with about 6 or 7 different other systems, which the integrations that we have provide them with over 40% extra energy savings. So as we look at energy costs and how they're going up as well, many states and cities are having energy mandates, whether, of course, based on the size of the building per city, they may have to have reporting, but not only reporting, what are you doing about it? So different cities have already begun those net mandates. So when you look at technology as a whole, we want convenience, right? So it's the tech, it's the convenience. And one of the terms that I use for like the last 7 years when it comes to hospitality We want a frictionless experience. And in hospitality, I'm thinking more of a hotel, but the overall industry, when you think about going to an airport years ago, you had to get a ticket. Years ago, you may have had to even get a ticket before you went to the airport. I remember going to offices to have them print a ticket from a travel agent to then go to the airport. Now I get my ticket in advance, days in advance. I know what's happening, right? So that's what we equate hotels to. How easy, how frictionless can it be? Can I check in without even downloading an app now? So now we're downloading, don't even need to download the app. We receive our keys, download it automatically, and then we go into the building. And I think the only reason I mentioned hospitality there or hotels is because every building that comes out of the ground will have electronic locks for 90% of the doors at minimum. So what we do is try to say, take away every mechanical key unless it's necessary for like a fire department or any emergency or a cruise ship where you have to have a cylinder. Because for us, we had 80,000 openings for 3 AA batteries. So when you have those openings, when the power's out, I'm the second responder while flying to different cities after hurricanes. It's the hotels they're staying inside of where they rebuild the city from that point, and the systems are still up and running even when the servers are down. The locks continue to work based on the credentials that we provide. So again, that goes back to the education piece, goes back to technology, goes back to security, integrations, cost savings. It's all wrapped in one, and this is where we are right now. So the industry is going to continue to grow.
Yeah, thank you. Those are all great kind of perspectives on things. We do have some questions from the audience, and what's cool is I'm looking these over. We covered a couple of these already, but I will kind of see if anyone has any additional thoughts. But this one, I know we talked a little bit about residential, so this one has me thinking: are there any Is there RMR potential in the residential side? Is it similar to what's going on outside of the residential side? Who wants to tackle this
I'll
one?
grab that one specifically. I was looking at that question. So answer is absolutely yes. Once again, as these gentlemen had mentioned, understanding what products are out there. I'm not going to go into an infomercial for my corporation. You don't need to hear that, but our other division has a product that's a home intrusion and alert, similar to like an ADT type scenario, where it's very simple to put online, and it's a simple fee simple micro subscription again, where whomever is installing it can, once again, same model. They put it online, they grab that, and then they can upcharge the customer whatever they can do. So RMR is absolutely available in commercial and residential, from my perspective.
Yeah. Did anyone else want to add to that, Roland?
Honestly, I think his answer was spot on. So,
Okay.
and coming from a manufacturer to manufacturer, he's right on top.
Okay, cool. And then Wayne or Daniel, any thoughts on that? Did you deal in the residential at all?
Yeah, I deal with residential all the time. I mean, you've got people that want to order their own stuff online. You're not really, that's not really my customer. And that's something to think about too, is, know your customer. And if somebody calls me and they want me to install something that they purchased, I'm just not going to warranty that. I want something to where I want to invest in a system that wants to invest in me. And I only use about 2 or 3 top tier products. I use premium A-grade products. The best of the best is always sell, because I don't want to go back and do warranty work. I just want it to work. I want to sell it. I want them to use it. I want them to be happy, and I don't want to hear from them again unless there's a major problem, in which we'll be there to help support them. But a major problem is just that, a problem that I don't want to have to really do anything with. So select your systems based on what you're going to be able to get out of that. You don't want to have return calls, and you want to try and get products that provide RMR, and you'll be a successful business.
I agree. We don't really get into residential a whole lot. It probably makes up about maybe 10% of our revenue. But as close as we get is probably like multifamily. And yes, there is definitely RMR in the multifamily sector. We deal a lot with the smart deadbolts that are integrating with the cloud access and stuff like that. But yes, there is definitely those RMR opportunities there in the multifamily. And that's probably as close as again, like Wayne, that's not really our customer. We focus more on commercial, but multifamily, yeah, there's definitely opportunities there.
No, it's good that you brought that up. Yeah, that is an area of growth that we have seen as well. Um, and Wayne, I know you touched on this already, but this is an interesting question. What's the typical markup on electronic access control? Daniel, I'll stick with you on this. Um, did you want to expand on what you've been able to see? I mean, you don't have to get into numbers or anything, but what have you been seeing in terms of the markup and potential to make more on those EAC jobs?
Like I said, for instance, I mentioned that, when we were first getting our feet wet with access control, we would offer lower prices just to get our foot in the door with our customers. And these were already customers that had been dealing with us, but we wanted to show them, hey, this is also something we can do. We knew we were going to make it up on the back end with our RMR. And it may take, maybe a year to, actually make more or make my profit back that I was losing on that install, but I knew it was there too. We partnered with some great manufacturers, and so we don't have to roll a truck as often. We're able to troubleshoot there in the shop. But typical markup, like anymore, I mean, we're seeing at least it'd be like a 35. We shoot at least for a 35% margin on anything we touch. And that's really, if we're trying to match a customer's budget and really trying to stick within their budget, we'll shoot for something somewhere around that 35% at the bare minimum. But as far as most of the time, like on our parts and our hardware and stuff like that, we're just doubling our prices. So, I mean, that's really the gist of it.
Yeah, that's good. Wayne, did you want to add anything to what
Yeah,
you
sure.
touched on this already?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for the shop owners out there, I know there's a ton of people listening that are the owners of businesses or starting businesses. You have to make what you have to make to run a successful business. It's not that you want to buy your job and you want to barely scrape by. You can either race to the bottom or you can race to the top. And I always choose to race to the top. I work in a backwards linear motion. So I see, what do I need to get out of this job for my time? How much time is it going to take? How much manpower is it going to take? And what do I need to get out of this job? And I will work the numbers into that job based on what I need to get out of it. Whether we have to double the price and your 100% markup on the product. If it's a project that we're going to piece together, like I got to put a Rex and a maglock and exit device and several pieces that have to go together, it's going to be pretty difficult for somebody to find and source all those pieces and get online pricing. So I'll be able to mark that up about 100% on those type of applications. If it's a standalone application, they're going to be able to look it up and see it in 5 minutes, and they're going to see that we double the price, and then you're going to get that pushback. So on those, we'll keep those margins really low, but then we'll swing back and we'll mark it up on the labor or the service call or the RMR or whatever it takes. If it takes sending 2 techs out to a location and doubling up the labor that way, I will make sure that the company profits, because at the end of the day, I don't work for free. I am here to run a business. I'm here to have capital in the bank when times are slow, to get through times like COVID. And I'm here to stay for a long time. That's how we've been in business for over 12 years. And that's how we're going to continue to do business.
Yeah, great points. And just the just manufacturer's point of view, Peter, did you have anything to add?
Definitely. I mean, these are all great points, but a slightly different perspective on that also, and it boils back to understanding your customer, knowing your customer. Our long-standing discussion on the wireless side has been exactly that: is it's wireless. If you're going to go in, let's say you have X number of jobs a day, you've got to do 4 jobs a day, and you discover that by going to a wireless system, you can install 6 locks a day versus 3 locks a day. Your ultimate capital is going to go up, but it's also balanced, because ultimately that entire system as a wireless system generally costs only about 60% of what it would cost someone. So let's use a rough number. Let's say if a typical per door installation is $3,000, with a system like a wireless lock, you're at $1,500. So you're half the money, but you can also do a third or 50% more. So as anything, the markup just depends on the bigger picture of your time. The great point that was made by Wayne and Daniel, your time versus the amount of effort versus your customers' needs and so forth. Also, what type of building it may be. To his point, are you going to be burrowing through a frame filled with concrete? Are you in a historic building where you can't make impact to things? Is it an old building that you have asbestos in the walls, which is an entirely new different set of nightmares? But this is the point. So again, you have to gauge this based on customer need, your experience, and so forth, versus the ultimate bottom line. So markup is a really interesting question, but again, I don't think there's one straight answer, but that's
right.
I'm not trying to muddy the water, but these are all
No,
considerations.
good
to get
points.
there.
Yeah. And Roland, I'll give you a chance on this one.
Yeah, it'll be brief because I agree wholeheartedly. Once again, the biggest thing that I've seen is that we shift based on the vertical and based on the customer volume and the customer size, right? So this is similar to if you go to a hardware store and you buy 100 pack of something versus buying one. So some of my customers have 10,000 sites. So if they have 10,000 sites, then it might warrant a bit of a discount versus the customer that has one site. We still want to provide them with the same quality material. However, the discount is going to be a bit different just to go ahead and meet their needs because they have maybe a capex budget for the entire company with all 8,000 sites or all 10,000 sites, or it may be site by site but under that same company, right? So it's understanding what the need is for that particular time, and that's why I think understanding the customer and understanding the vertical is so important.
Yeah, no, those are great points, everyone. All right, looks like we've come to the end of this webcast. Thank you, each of you. It's been a pleasure to moderate this. I appreciate your time. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank you for the opportunity.